Finally, something that I kind of almost feel this is a grail, but it's a repress, but something that I've wanted on vinyl since the time that I discovered this record, which was long after it was released. And this is an artist that Mazzy's been talking about quite a bit lately. And it's an interesting one for me because I actually was introduced to this artist through the algos, yes, through the streaming algorithms. Who I'm talking about here is Richard Hawley and Cole's Corner. This has been a favorite CD of mine for quite a long time, and because of the nature of the music, you could call it crooner, very sort of drawing on 40s and 50s pop and with strings, and just an absolutely lush and gorgeous sounding record. And I refer to this as being of a piece. So when I refer to an album as being of a piece, it kind of creates a tone and is consistent throughout, so that when you're listening to it, there aren't sort of big changes, abrupt mood changes or volume changes, or loud rock and roll and then super quiet. This all sort of flows beautifully together, and it just has a great tone. It seems like it's from another era. This was actually recorded in 2005 or released in 2005. So again, I was, completely buying CDs at that time. But the way that I heard about this record was through the algorithms. So I'm going to just read something from here that I think is really cool. So this is about Cole's Corner itself. So in every city and every town, there's a special place where people meet. Not a mythical place, but somewhere real. A place that exists, not in the past, but now. In my city, there's a place just like that. You won't see a street sign for it, and you can't find it on a map, but it is there. Right under everyone's feet, thousands and thousands of feet have stood there, waiting in the warm morning sunshine, or stamping, bored and impatient in the freezing winter night, annoyed at someone who's late or will never come. The conceit of this is that this place, which really does exist in Sheffield, is a place where people meet, and often like lovers will meet. Maybe they'll arrange to meet for a date there, that kind of thing. And I think the Sheffield Forum website actually has people sharing their stories of having met their wife or husband there, that kind of thing. And it's really beautiful in a sense, because what he mentions here, or what I've read about, is that it's not that the place itself has any kind of romance, but it is simply a meeting place that memories have sort of begun there, because it's a place where people have met. And it's been going on for years. And I love that idea of kind of a place where people get to know each other or kick off their evenings or their relationships, and it kind of starts there. The beginning, you've got Richard Hawley, I assume that's Richard Hawley, with flowers, with hope and expectation. That's how I would project it, right? Of waiting to meet somebody new in his life. The back, you see the flowers in a litter bin, trash bin. This would be somebody, obviously, the date never showed up and he just threw the flowers away. And then the gatefold. I love this, again, metaphor or conceit, that this is, you're opening up into a world. You don't know what's going to be inside. This is kind of how I look at it. And so a repress, a German pressing, I believe, on the Califone label. And I've been looking for it, in Canada anyways. This is has been a hard record to find. I don't know why, I just didn't want to go find it on Discogs. So I'd been looking and looking and looking. So now that it's been repressed, I'm super happy to have a copy of this Richard Hawley, Cole's Corner. You've heard from a past video of mine that I have been going through a bit of a search for late career Chet Baker, because I do love, not because I'm drawn from the macabre notion that getting recordings right before he died, although I can't pretend that doesn't have an element to all of this, but the quality of the work, the recognition that he was actually producing beautiful music, both vocally and on his trumpet, with all of its imperfections, that the emotive quality of the music that he was recording was really spectacular. So there's a lot of Chet was a very prolific guy, so there's a lot of stuff that's out there. This one I've had for a little bit. This was a Chet's Choice, and it features Philip Catherine on guitar. This is a very nice record. I like this. I'm just setting this up as a preface because what I ended up getting was this one. I think this is a record store day release, and this one I let it pass by when it first came, partly because, as I said, Chet's so prolific that it's a little bit like Bill Evans. It seems like every record store day there's a release, and at some point you kind of go, maybe I have enough Chet, maybe I don't need to get more. What's this going to do that's going to kind of add more to what I already have in my collection? But lo and behold, I found myself late at night after getting another Chet recording that I'll show you in a minute that kind of was the springboard for me reaching out to get this. But this is on the Elemental label. I will say, if you're interested in late career Chet, strongly recommend this. I think this is a garbage day. This is a very nice record. Again, beautiful tone, late night listening, as the title suggests. Elemental does a great job of finding recordings that weren't widely released. This one had been released, I think, somewhere in Scandinavia, but out of print for a long time, and repackaging it up. Fantastic liner notes as well. So if you're like me and you like late career Chet Baker, I would say this is definitely one that I would strongly recommend you pick up. I think it's still out there. But the reason I ended up getting that was, I mentioned before that I had picked up something I had on CD and that I was excited about. Was I got the Chet Baker Great Last Concert Volume 1, and I was looking for Volume 2, and lo and behold, I walked into Red Cat, one of my local record stores, and they had Volume 2, The Last Great Jazz Concert. I won't go into great detail on this because it was in, I think, my last video, but this is a German pressing, whereas the other one was a Canadian pressing. So this was originally recorded for the Enya label out of Germany, and it's nice to have a German copy. I love this this concert. Again, 3 configurations. There's Chet and the big band, and then there's one with an orchestra, and there's one with just kind of Chet and a small lineup. So Walter Norris on piano, Lucas Lindholm on bass. And My Funny Valentine, how many times do we need to hear that? I would argue more times, given how well he does it. So Chet Baker, The Last Great Concert Volume 2, I finally got it. Paid a bit of a pretty price, but I really wanted to have this record, and I think it's well worth it. I think the sound quality of this is great. Again, this was recorded 3 weeks before Chet died in Amsterdam, so truly maybe one of the last, if not the last, recording. And finally, just a quick aside. I mentioned this on a previous video. I had picked it up. Sometimes when you get some of these things, this is, again, a fairly exclusive thing, like 500 copies. This is Califone. And Califone are a very unique kind of band. There's not so much songs as they are almost soundscapes and musical pastiches, I guess. But the mood that they create, and it's basically, I forget the gentleman's name who's kind of the driving force behind the band, but it's very unique. And I, bought this because I thought I'd really like to have this in my collection. Sometimes I'm drawn more by a collector mentality, and my expectations of the music itself may not be huge. I kind of had that, admittedly, going into this purchase. And I don't know if you've found this, but sometimes you get a record and you don't have high expectations, but you just want to have it in your collection, and you find yourself listening to it over and over and over again. This, to me, is a wonderful late summer kind of recording. Maybe you can stream it as well. In fact, I know it is available. And it's called The Villager's Companion, and it's basically a companion piece to another record. So I would recommend streaming this and get an idea if this is something you like. It's pretty esoteric, it's a little out there, but I think it's got a quality that I really like. So.